Carrington, did you want to start because you're doing the key terms?
Okay, I'll go. So how do you want me to introduce this first slide and the second slide? Yes.
I think it's up to you. It's up to you.
Okay. Okay. So our topic was Blacks in music. And on today's agenda, we're going to be discussing key terms for Blacks in music, the history of Blacks in music, and Blacks in music today. Key terms. Our first key term is jazz, and jazz is a style of music that was invented by African-American musicians within the early part of the 20th century in New Orleans, Louisiana. It is characterized as improvisation and performance techniques. Our next key term is Negro spiritual. It is a type of religious song originating among Black slaves in the American South. And our last key term is rhythm and blues, also known as R&B. It is a form of popular music including elements of blues and African-American folk music that arose during the 1940s.
So this is the history of Blacks in music. We're going to start with the African-American spirituals. Those are also known as the Negro spirituals. They are religious folk songs sung by the enslaved Africans in the late 1700s, and that carried their way through the abolishment of legalized slavery in the 1860s. Songs like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and Deep Down in My Heart are popular spirituals that are more commonly known today. Negro spirituals are more known to be one of the largest and most significant forms of African folk song. They are more commonly sung in praise houses or in brush arbor meetings. Most songs were sung in a call and response form where the leader would start a line of the song and then a group of people, usually when they were in the field, would sing the rest of the chorus, and it would just go back and forth like that. And most spirituals were used to claim new faith, sing sorrows about being enslaved, and hopes that slavery was going to be abolished or not be as big of a deal as it was back in that time. And then there are two types of spirituals. There are sorrow songs and jubilees. The difference between the two is the pace and the lyric choice, where sorrow songs were more slow and melancholic, whereas jubilees were more upbeat and sung happy praises. African American spirituals were also present during around the time of the Underground Railroad. This is around the mid-19th century. These spirituals were often used as a secret language in order to assist slaves to freedom in the Underground Railroad, though there isn't any hard evidence for that, just because there is, because helping slaves to freedom was illegal, so it wasn't widely known about that secret language. And even if it was, it would not be basically a secret because of that. It would be illegal and people would go to jail. More famously, Harriet Tubman sung Go Down to Moses, which was to identify herself amongst the slaves, to let them know, like, hey, I'm going to go north, who's going to come with me? And they use that spiritual as a song in order to talk, like, let them know, like, oh, Harriet Tubman is here. And then also in Frederick Douglass's book, My Bondage and My Freedom, that he also talked about Negro spirituals that he sung while he was enslaved as well. And then starting in the 1870s, there was the first chorus group touring that were made up of former slaves called the Jubilee Singers, that kind of spread the Negro spirituals more internationally, where after that more groups were developed after that. And then going to the Harlem Renaissance, this was in the new Negro movement. which is also known as the Harlem Renaissance. It was the time period from the 1910s to the 1930s that introduced America to a style of Black music, dance, poetry, and art. And this Renaissance has birthed some prominent musical figures such as Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Fats Waller, Duke Ellington, and Fletcher Henderson, who all popularized jazz music.
R&B, another popular thing in Black history. R&B music or rhythm and blues is a type of music that was influenced by African Americans in the late 1930s during the Harlem Renaissance. The term R&B was used in place of the term race music, which was what R&B was originally called. Most music around this time was sung by African Americans. R&B combines both elements of blues music and jazz. By the 1970s, R&B became the blanket term for funk and soul as well, made up of 4-beat measures and the use of a backbeat in vocal harmonies. Country music. Country music has its roots in African American music. The Black influence on country music begins with the banjo, which often conjures up the image of a white pastoral South. So most people think that the banjo comes from white people, but actually Black people originated it. The instrument is descendant of a West African lutes made from gourds that were brought to America by slaves, and which became a vital component of slave music and culture in the South. The instrument was then appropriated, spread to white audience through minstrel and blackface shows. Many of the early country artists' songs were often inherited and adapted from Black sources, such as slave spirituals, field songs, religious hymnals, and professional Black songwriters' works. Black and white country artists often collaborated on music, making country music more integrated and diverse. As country music became more commercialized, Black artists on country records began to go unrecognized, causing them to be pushed to the margins of country music. Jazz. Jazz is considered an integral part of African American culture. Nick LaRocca, the leader of the Dixieland band that was very popular, described jazz as assassination of melody and a slap of syncopation. Jazz music originated from New Orleans hot music, and some of the concepts were inherited from Africa and transferred from slavery to liberty to Blacks. Bebop, which is primarily instrumental and was developed by serious Black musicians who experimented with the new ideas in late night jam sessions, was the first style to gain recognition as a fine art.
Blacks in music today, from jazz to hip hop. In the 1980s and 1990s, jazz became modernized as synthesizers entered the picture. This culminated in the emergence of hip hop. Artists such as Tupac Shakur, Jungle Brothers, and A Tribe Called Quest have all sampled jazz in their songs. The 1980s to 1990s was also the time period in which hip hop artists started to directly address social issues in their music. With their rough and raunchy tales of violent life in the inner city, articulated through razor-sharp lyrics, groups such as NWA provided the soundtrack for angry and restless Black youth people across America.
So hip hop and rap today, from hip hop stemmed the subcategory of rap music, which has dominated the music industry in the past few years. In 2017, for the first time ever, Nielsen's music report showed that hip hop and rap had surpassed rock as the most popular music genre. And since then it has remained at the top. And because of its gained popularity, it's had a lot of effects and impacts on modern pop culture in different ways, such as like fashion, language and slang, and dance. Many fashion designers have actually quoted hip hop as some of their inspirations for fashion looks and collections. And some of the most popular hip hop and rap artists of the 2010s that helped contribute to the popularity in 2017 were Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, and J. Cole. And then we have our references.